Welcome back to Goforth&Carnivore. So I told you all about my day one fail and the struggles that came with that. But guess what? My story had just begun. I went from failing to tackling my first month. In just 30 days on the carnivore diet, I dropped a massive 28 pounds. So stick with me today. I'm revealing about my energy, my sleep, and whether or not that terrible brain fog really ever left. Now, I need to share a personal story that this is so much more than just this scale or even a personal health thing. As I mentioned in my day zero video, my mother was diagnosed with severe kidney failure when I was a child. And so if we fast forward to when I turned 18, my brother and I had surprised her with applications for one of us to donate a kidney, depending on whichever one of us was a better fit. And with us being her child, we had better chances of being the correct blood type and fit of all that for her. But as we dug into it and we started making arrangements for this, we very quickly found out that our massive BMI, our body mass index, was way too high. So this was the first time, aside from little moments here or there of embarrassment growing up, that my choices, my life and being overweight was truly life or death in these situations. Because, like I said in the previous video, when I had turned 25, my mother had passed away. It became so much more real because the choices that I had made kept me from helping my mother out. But at this point in life, it became even more real because I was a husband. It wasn't just living for myself, it was living for my wife. And if we fast forward, it became living as a father. And it became about being the best man that I could be to lead for my family. It became so much more than that. And that 30-day challenge that I started out with really pushed me and urged me to get me to where I needed to be to get the energy, to regulate sleep, to get rid of that brain fog that I had. It was time for me to make a change. Now, just to be fully transparent with you, in previous videos, I had mentioned that I had nearly hit that 400-pound mark. I was 399.1 pounds. But prior to starting this 30-day challenge, I had changed some things. I had eliminated sodas for a few months up to this. I had started getting more active, and I had dropped 20 to 30 pounds, and I had started this carnivore challenge at 370 pounds. So the 28 pounds we are celebrating today is off of that 370-pound benchmark, just to be fully transparent with you. So in the early days of kicking off that 30-day challenge, the biggest changes that I noticed was the bloating, the feeling of my body just feeling miserable all the time after eating. It really went away almost immediately because I was eating nutrient-rich food rather than just eating carbs and overloading and gorging myself. I was eating substance. I'm not sure how to say that right now. But I was eating what I needed. I was eating what my body needed. And so I wasn't feeling bloated and miserable all the time. And also, I was losing the water weight. At the beginning, I was dropping like 2 pounds every day for the first few days because my body was just ridding itself of the water that it retained from that carb-rich diet that I had lived. And it was finally starting to level out on the water that my body did need to retain during that time. But one of the biggest things that was noticeable was within the first month, I could see such a difference in clothes. Just to show, these are the jeans that I wore. They were a 46, 42, or sorry, 46, 32. I'm not that tall. I could slide into these. I could throw them over my body and they would just fall off of me. Here's the shirt that I wear in my transformation picture that I'll be showing you guys to show my monthly progress for a while. Here's the shirt that I wore, and I could lay that over me and wrap it around me, and I could probably almost touch it if I stretched it enough. But the clothes, there was such a different feeling in my clothes just within the first few weeks, because I could just tell that there was a difference, and my body was changing. It was readjusting to what my body needed rather than storing up, because even though I was eating all of these carbs, I was still robbing myself of nutrients that I needed. The best part of this was that I did all of this while eating such simple foods. I ate hamburger meat, I ate the occasional steak when I started, pork chops, chicken wings, eggs. I remember making ground beef with some eggs and maybe a little sausage. I did all of these different things that were so simple, but they helped me. I was losing weight. I was feeling better. It was amazing. And I will mention, for the Super Bowl party that we held in that February of 23, I did make a buffalo chicken dip out of goat cheese, chicken breasts, and some Frank's Red Hot. Now, I know you carnivore purists are going to come after me for that, but I did what I had to survive during that time. I knew my self-confidence and my ability to have that willpower to not eat all of that. And so I did make that to take to the Super Bowl party. Well, not take, but make, because we hosted it. But I did make that to where I could still enjoy some of that Super Bowl type food or that football type food, but also making sure that I was still living that carnivore lifestyle that I wanted to live out. And then with that came the mental clarity. The brain fog disappeared. I wasn't just in this, how do I say it, just muck all the time. I was finally finding myself again. I wasn't waking up miserable about the body and mind that I was in. I had a fantastic life, but the life that I was living internally was miserable because of the food I ate, the choices I made. It was just, like I said, miserable to be in my own head. It was a hard time because I still had those emotional eating attachments that I had to work through. And my anxiety and my depression, they slowly crept away. I will say that they didn't fully leave, but they did recede quite a bit. I was able to enjoy life in different ways. I was able to manage my sleep. Now I'll mention here in a bit about how I lost sleep, but when I did finally rest, my body was finally going to bed and truly resting and not just napping to make it to the next nap because of the sleep apnea issues and all these different things. I was never fully resting. It was a totally different kind of rest once I started the carnivore lifestyle. But that's not to say that it doesn't come with its own struggles. For everyone who's done the carnivore diet or ketogenic diet understands this term, Keto Flu, and it hit me like a ton of bricks within week 3. There was a point in time where I could not imagine taking one more bite of meat within the rest of my life. I just felt like the Joey Tribbiani on the Thanksgiving episode of going, here comes the meat sweats. But as long as I fasted and waited till about hour 20, I suddenly became Ron Swanson, where I'm like, keep bringing the bacon, keep bringing the steak, keep bringing the chicken, all these different things, which I don't think Ron Swanson would order chicken. He would just order the juicy steak and bacon. But it would just take me that time to fast and get used to it because that keto flu hit me like a ton of bricks. I was exhausted. There was nothing more that I wanted to take a nap. But as long as I fought through it and just kept working, it finally subsided. But that week 3, man, it was so rough. And I'll share some other stories later on about a time that I tried to finish a ribeye and I literally had to spit it out. But I'll save you that for now. But also the struggles that came along with that were the digestive issues. There's a period of time where you could not... Woo, here I go again. Where you could not trust your gas. You could not trust a sneeze, and you could not trust a cough, because you never know what might tense up and what might seep out. I'm so sorry. But there was a lot of changes in that. But from my experience with IBS, that was a struggle that I was used to. And so it was just something that it was another adjustment that I was getting used to. One of the craziest parts of the adjustment of getting fat adapted, getting keto adapted, and changing the minerals that I took in, was the cramps. There were so many times that I would wake up in the middle of the night, shoot out of bed, and my wife would also have to shoot out of bed to help extend or push my foot in, because I would have such horrible cramps, and it would just be miserable. And so I had to learn. At that point in time, I did a homemade mixture of things, and I'll give that recipe out, of electrolytes, but also I did the unflavored element electrolytes, just because I knew my struggles, that I didn't want to have any kind of sweeteners. And so I did just the salty unflavored packet, and that really helped a lot of issues during that time, because the cramps, man, they would come, and they would just come on strong. I actually had a cramp fit today while at my desk, because I think I went a little bit too hard at the gym this morning, but either that or I just didn't drink enough water today. But I had to jump up, and I was like, oh no, are we jumping back into it? Because I knew that I was going to be talking about this tonight, and so it was just crazy. But those started about week 2 of the leg cramps, and finding that adjustment of making sure I was getting enough salt, making sure I was getting some electrolyte supplement if I couldn't get that through salt, and just making sure I was taking care of that mineral replenishment that I wasn't getting from that carb-rich lifestyle anymore. But also I had to fight through the struggles of cravings, because as an emotional eater and one who would gorge themselves, I would have to force myself to either do something active or to eat some bacon, just something to hold me over, because if I didn't, I knew that I would go into the pantry and dig out whatever I had to, just to get myself through the day. Because within that first month, I will admit there was moments that I failed, but it didn't stop me. I continued to go. I would fast if it was an utter failure, and we all know how those chips and salsa get Mr. Goforth. And so I knew that I had to be careful and do sometimes it was just a daily reset of, okay, Jordan, you've messed up, recalibrate and correct, because you're an emotional leader. You have those cravings that you have to fight through, and you need to get back on track. But also my eating pattern changed, because I would sometimes eat 3 meals a day and snack. And boy, I was a snacker. My family, we're veggers. We love to veg out. There's this wonderful dip that my mom made, and that I continue to make that recipe for my family in the holidays. And man, we can just tear that up. But I had to change my eating pattern. And during this time, I did the 2 meal a day. And as long as I was doing that shorter eating window, my body was able to use the fat reserves that I had, and I was able to drop that weight and continue to progress and to move forward. So, what was the payoff? It was less weight on my heart, on my back, and on my knees. My body was carrying that. So whether it was water weight or fat, that was less weight that my back, knees, and heart had to carry. So regardless, there were some health benefits involved. And also, like I said, it was a way for me to reset, to change the mistakes that I made when I was younger, to make sure that I had longevity of life, to where I could be the husband to lead my wife, to where I could be the father to my kids, to where I could be the best employee to my employer, to make sure that I was living the best life that I could for myself and all of those around me that depended on me. So, if you are looking to start, if you're trying to figure out, is this for me? Is there benefits in this for me? I'm here to tell you there are benefits in it for you. Even if it's just losing some water weight and you don't have a bunch of weight to lose, but you have these chronic illnesses, these autoimmune issues that you could help eliminate by just starting on a beef, butter, bacon, and eggs type diet, do that elimination thing. You could do that. You can start now. Choose life. Choose change. Go out, buy the cheapest beef that you can find, stir it up with some eggs, add a couple pats of butters, and eat until you're full, guys. It's not that complicated. It's complicated because you have to get through all these social norms, these expectations of what everyone has for you, and even your personal expectations of, wait, this is what I've been told my entire life. How is this changing now? But I promise you, if you go and do the real life work, you will see the real results. So, I want to ask you, have you ever done this? Have you ever done the 30-day carnivore challenge? If you have, post in the comments, what struggles did you have? Okay, you haven't ever done this. You want to start the 30-day carnivore challenge. What struggles do you have right now that we can help encourage you and help boast you to where you start this, to where you change your life, to where you live a real life with real results? So I ask that you would subscribe to where you can see the next video, the 60-day update, to see some radical things that I changed, and I really got to see a more increase of results. And so you can check out these other videos that I've done prior to this to tell my day 0, the life leading up to this, and day 1, the day that I failed, and even now where I recovered. So until I see you next time, go forth and carnivore. See you guys.